Okay, we'll start with this. Manager extraordinaire from Chi-Town, Chicago, Rick Ramos, took to social media and stated the Taylor vs. Serrano rematch is a guaranteed great fight, much like Canelo vs. Triple G. Why bring it to Ireland? You don't need Serrano to sell out Ireland. Save the Serrano fight for a rainy day, just like Canelo saved the Triple G fight.
Rick is advocating for Jessica to get another shot at Katie.
Let's get a couple of things clear. Word round the campfire is that Taylor vs. Serrano 2 isn't next. That Amanda Serrano will be returning to the featherweight division, and she will be returning to action in August.
That's one.
Coincidentally, Jake Paul's ring return, Jake Paul, who promotes Amanda Serrano, he's supposed to be back out in August.
Quitting Eddie Hearn against Tommy Fury.
He's supposed to be getting back out in August, and the rumor is he's supposed to be facing Tommy Fury.
Okay, that's 2.
3. According to Showtime executive Stefan Espinoza, Jake Paul is a network and promotional free agent.
They're trying aggressively to land his next fight, but he's a free agent right now, free to go where he wants to go.
That's 3.
4. It just so happens that Matchroom has a prized stallion of their own.
At 126 pounds they do. At featherweight, where Amanda Serrano is supposed to be returning. They have Erica Cruz. They signed her last year, I believe it was.
Matchroom, Most Valuable Promotions, and DAZN just did very good business.
With the Taylor vs. Serrano mega fight, the Taylor vs. Serrano showdown. So could this herald a continued partnership between Jake Paul, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and Most Valuable Promotions moving forward? Is Jake Paul's next fight going to end up on DAZN? Well, I wouldn't rule it out.
What's all this got to do with what Rick Ramos is saying?
Rick is saying that Katie Taylor's next fight, which could go down in Ireland at Croker Park, it doesn't have to be Amanda Serrano because Katie doesn't need Amanda to sell out Croker Park. She doesn't need Amanda to sell out in Ireland. And what he's advocating for is a Jessica McCaskill rematch. So knowing what we know,
What rumors are out there right now?
doesn't look like Katie Taylor's going to be fighting Amanda Serrano next anyway.
The thing is that Jessica's supposed to be in a must-win fight very soon.
The end of this month, on the 25th, on the undercard of Bam Rodriguez versus Sorun Visay, Jessica McCaskill is going to be taking on the very statuesque and aggressive Alma Ibarra of Mexico. What I heard is the WBA mandatory challenger to one of Jessica McCaskill's belts. That's a must-win fight.
It's a dangerous fucking fight is what it is.
Alma Ibarra has a lot of size on Jessica McCaskill. The come-forward, aggressive, pressure-fighting Jessica McCaskill that can normally overwhelm and outfight her opponents, outfight those opponents at 140, at 147. But Alma Ibarra has campaigned as high as middleweight. She's got a big frame and a big punch.
That's who Jessica's gonna be fighting.
Right now, Jessica McCaskill still is the welterweight division's undisputed champion. Rick Ramos has been talking about moving downstairs to 140 pounds, potentially becoming an undisputed champion there. But at this time, Jessica holds no belts in the 140-pound division. The belts she holds at 147 pounds, they could be an incentive for Katie Taylor to fight her in order to become a 2-division undisputed champion and a 3-division
champion overall.
This is why I say this upcoming Alma Ibarra fight at the end of this month is a must-win fight for Jessica. I feel like those belts provide the added incentive for Katie to give Jessica that rematch she's always wanted.
Without those belts, I don't know that they can get a second fight.
If she loses that fight at the end of this month, what incentive will there be for Katie to fight her for a second time? She could just as easily fight Estelle Mosley,
Sofia Ochagawa, or somebody else.
Rick's not wrong, you know. Katie doesn't need Amanda to sell out Croker Park. In truth, she doesn't need anyone in particular to sell out in Ireland, to sell out Croker Park. She could easily sell out with Amanda, with Estelle, with Sophia, or Jessica. So what does Jessica bring to the table that they don't?
She's an undisputed champion, that's what.
And I get the sense that if she wants that Katie Taylor rematch, she better stay an undisputed champion because she has that to bring to the table. That which other fighters don't have. Something for Katie Taylor to win.
You know, I heard a rumor that Katie's supposed to be back out in September.
So if Amanda's getting back out in August and Katie's getting back out in September, Katie is in the market for an opponent because it won't be Amanda Serrano she faces for a second time. It could very well end up being Jessica McCaskill if Jessica makes it through Alma Ibarra. The problem is, it's not a foregone conclusion that she will.
That's a must-win fight for Jessica.
There's more online than just Jessica's alphabet titles.
I think the Katie Taylor rematch hinges on her winning that fight. If she loses...
Kills that conversation. It kills it is what it does. So let's see what happens at the end of this month. In men's heavyweight news, per a tweet from Michael Benson, the Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua rematch is reportedly now being targeted for August 20th at the Jeddah Superdome in Saudi Arabia. It's claimed the WBA, IBF, and WBO heavyweight world title fight is close to being confirmed for that date. They keep pushing this thing back. It feels like it's taking forever.
It does.
And the saving grace, the silver lining, at least for Anthony Joshua, is this affords him more time to work on the proverbial game plan.
He'll have a little bit more time with Robert Garcia, who he very recently added to his corner.
He needs that extra time, I think. That extra time with Robert Garcia to get his head on straight and work on whatever it is he needs to work on, to be more aggressive and, more importantly, be more effective in the second fight with Alexander Usyk. Most people are once again writing Anthony Joshua off.
Well, he's not going to become a completely different fighter overnight.
When you see a fighter, a more or less already experienced fighter, make an addition to their corner, hire a new trainer, it usually takes a couple of fights before you start to see the difference.
When Oscar Valdez hired Eddie Reynoso, he didn't suddenly become a different guy, a different fighter.
It wasn't until the Burchelt fight that you saw the fruits of their labor. That Anthony Joshua needs more time with Robert Garcia, I think, goes without saying. That much is obvious.
We'll see if it makes a difference, and we'll see if it doesn't.
Most people feel that he can't look to Robert Garcia to give him what he's lost. He can't look to Robert Garcia for something that has to come from within. The desire to win, more importantly, the desire to punish, the desire to hurt Alexander Usyk. Most people feel that since having been knocked out by Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua is not the same guy that he was before. He's a lot more gun-shy, a lot more cautious now, and that's why he didn't really hit the gas and go for the gusto in the first fight with Alexander Usyk. And adding...
People are saying he's scared to get hit.
Because he's scared to get hit, he's hesitant, he's tentative, and adding Robert Garcia to his corner isn't going to give him his courage back. That's what people are saying in many circles.
Some people think he's chinny. Some people think he's got a glass jaw.
And I'm not telling you out there to agree with those people. I'm not even telling you that I agree with them. This is the same Anthony Joshua that took some sharp hooks right to the face from Alexander Povetkin, the same Alexander Povetkin that flatlined Dillian White in their first fight. That knockout puncher. This is a guy who got dropped by a quality right hand from Vladimir Klitschko, picked himself up off the canvas, and secured the W. I don't necessarily think that Anthony Joshua's got a glass jaw, but I do think that he's more tentative now than he was before that Ruiz fight, that first Ruiz fight, that knockout. He does seem a little bit more hesitant.
I think it's psychological.
And I think he needs to snap out of it. If you want to be aggressive, more aggressive in the second fight, enlisting the aid of Robert Garcia, it can be beneficial, but as far as going for the gusto and having the moxie to do that, that's got to come from Anthony Joshua. It can't come from Robert, can't come from Angel Fernandez, it can't come from anybody else. It has to come from him.
Those guys can get you ready as best as they can to help you work on things and what it is you're going to do.
Wanting to do it has to come from you. Wanting to go that extra mile. And just in keeping with the theme of fighters breaking in new trainers, Frankie Sanchez is very pleased with the trainer switch to Joe Goossen. He is the second Eddie Reynoso fighter to leave the Eddie Reynoso gym and enlist the aid of veteran trainer Joe Goossen. We know that Ryan Garcia,
more famously, he parted ways with Eddie Reynoso and enlisted the aid of Joe.
Frankie Sanchez says, firstly, I was in Miami on vacation, and then I came to camp with Joe to prepare for my next fight, which we should announce soon. With Eddie and Canelo, we have the best relationships. Everything is normal. Eddie had a great camp with Canelo, and he was very busy. Now he's on vacation, and that is why I came with Joe. But everything is normal with Eddie, Sanchez told George Ebro. Sanchez indicates that he doesn't rule out the possibility of going back to Reynoso at some point in the future. The doors are open with Reynoso and Team Canelo. My doors are open. They're on vacation after a long camp. I gotta fight, and I have to look for opportunities and develop here with Joe during this time, Sanchez said. Joe is a great trainer who knows how to handle heavyweights well. I like the way he trains.
Seems like Frankie Sanchez was providing assurances that he has no issue with Eddie.
That they are parting ways, but they're parting ways on amicable terms, because he needs a trainer he actually has access to, and Eddie's on holiday.
I don't think Eddie's going to be winning Trainer of the Year this year.
Frankie Sanchez stated, Joe is a great trainer who knows how to handle heavyweights well. I like the way he trains, prepares the fighters. My managers contacted him him, and he opened his arms to me. He received me here. First, I came to Los Angeles, and I was practicing for a few days with him, seeing how he trains. Obviously, he has been a trainer with great champions, with a lot of experience in boxing. He knows quite a bit. I like how he is working with me, and I feel good with him.
Listen, I think Frankie Sanchez made the right decision.
That's not a knock on Eddie Reynoso or his ability to train fighters. That's not a knock on his gym. But let's be honest. He's not going to make a Frankie Sanchez as big a priority to him as his old buddy Canelo Alvarez. In truth, this goes back to what Ryan Garcia said way back when he announced that he would be leaving the Reynoso gym and enlisting the aid of Joe Goossen. That Eddie, he doesn't treat all the fighters the same way. In truth, no one expects him to.
No, I don't expect Frankie to rank as high on Eddie's priority list as Canelo Alvarez.
Not just because of the money that Canelo Alvarez makes. It's deeper than that. He's been with Canelo Alvarez for a very, very long time, and he's not going to have the rapport with other fighters that he's developed over time, a long time, with Canelo.
Still, Frankie thought it prudent to assure people that he's not on bad terms with Eddie. He just went a different route.
Goossen has a lot that I can learn from, especially from someone so experienced in this sport. I am a boxer who is always learning. We're already working on several aspects, such as inside boxing, attacking a little more. I feel very good there. With Giovanni Bruzon, another Cuban with whom I get along with very well, he's a good fighter, good human person. We have known Ryan Garcia for a long time. We're like family. His time here has been very positive.
Now, that's an important insight.
Make no mistake, Frankie Sanchez is a very skilled boxer. He completely disarmed knockout artist of Nigeria, Efe Ajagba, in their battle of the unbeatens. Though being a skillful boxer doesn't always mean being an entertaining boxer, an entertaining fighter.
Frankie made some mention of them working on things, being more of an attacker.
Made some mention of inside fighting as opposed to what we've been seeing from Frankie. Boxing from the outside, keeping the opponent at arm's length behind the jab. It's effective, it is.
You don't want to be limited to just boxing from the outside.
Because that's the kind of thing that works up until it doesn't. Up until you come up against somebody that can slip that jab, slip past it, get mid-range to inside, and touch you to the body. It's the kind of thing...
I don't think it would hurt Frankie at all to develop some mid-range to inside game, and Joe's helping him with that.
In spite of Frankie's assurances that he's still on good terms with Eddie Reynoso, I don't actually expect Frankie to return to the Reynoso gym. I expect him, moving forward, to have Joe Goossen in his corner.
And you never know, maybe he'll be better off for it.
Maybe he will. He's got other things he's got to think about. You know, Frankie Sanchez is a PBC fighter. He's over there on PBC Island, and the problem is there are no alphabet titles for Frankie to fight for over there on PBC Island.
He's not a mandatory challenger for any of those alphabet titles either.
Most, if not all of those mandatory slots by way of the alphabets are occupied by other fighters. Joe Joyce by way of the WBO, the winner of Trevor Bryan versus Daniel Dubois by way of the WBA,
the winner of Philippe Pergovic versus Zile Zhang by way of the IBF.
The only alphabet organization that doesn't have a mandatory challenger already in position is the WBC, but Frankie Sanchez, he's not in a pole position to become their mandatory challenger either.
Deontay Wilder's their number one contender, and I don't think they're going to put Deontay in there.
Not after two back-to-back knockout losses to Tyson Fury. I don't think they're going to put Deontay in there with Frankie Sanchez in Deontay's very next fight, whenever that is.
Frankie has to get a move on and start making things happen.
He may even have to change his decorum in order to eventually fight for an alphabet title, in order to eventually try and become a world champion. He may have to leave the island.
He's changed trainers, and he may have to change his decorum next.
And finally, in men's lightweight news, Vasyl Lomachenko will have decisions to make in the aftermath of Kambosos versus Haney, says top-ranked president. We offered him the Kambosos fight, and he said, I'm passing. I want to stay and support my country. We all respected that, and Haney ended up with that. He is going to have to figure out in his own head and with his family and his country where he wants to be come Saturday night when there is a winner determined. Whether he wants to be back in the sweepstakes for his profession, or does he want to stay countryside with all these civilians there, protecting them, being as helpful as possible. I think because of the sensitivity of the subject matter, it is a personal thing. It is neither you or I or what we believe in. It is really about what Vasyl believes in, and when he has made that determinant that I am at peace with my decision, and as we all know, it is he who gets in the ring, not us. Obviously, we want him mentally in the greatest shape he can be in, and physically, so I think he has to be at peace with the decision that he makes. He has to make that. We can only give you the opportunities, and there's no predetermined, predisposed ETA for Vasyl Lomachenko's ring return. The war hasn't been raging all that long. It's been a matter of months, after all. He hasn't lost a year or anything like that to it.
It's not too late for him to come back.
Hasn't even been all that long since he last boxed. He was in action late last year in December, towards the tail end of last year, and there's still plenty of time for him to...
He can fight the winner.
Depending on who the winner is. I happen to think if George Kambosos Jr. wins tonight, he's not going anywhere. He'll reign as this division's undisputed champion until someone pries all those alphabet titles away from him. If Devin wins, however, I'm not sure he stays in the lightweight division. If Devin wins, I think he will promptly...
Devin's only 23 years old and his body is still growing.
I saw him at the weigh-in. Face sunken in, he looked a little dry, I'm not gonna lie to you. It looks to me like Devin's days at 135 pounds, they are numbered, and I expect that if he wins in his very next fight, he might move up in weight, regardless of what he agreed to with George Kambosos Jr. We know that George is supposed to have a rematch clause incorporated into the contract, and he can so exercise that rematch clause should Devin beat him. But what if Devin can't make 135 pounds safely anymore? What if this last camp and this last cut was a hard cut and he decides he's going to move up in weight?
There's something to think about there.
At minimum, you have to think about that if Devin Haney ends up beating George and he decides he wants to move up in weight while George decides he wants to run it back and he wants a rematch, that's a situation that could require some reconciliation. But at minimum, I get the sense that if George wins, he'll stay at lightweight, defend those belts, and he will be there for Vasyl Lomachenko's return. He will be there so that Vasyl Lomachenko can challenge him for all those alphabet titles. The situation with Devin Haney, it is a little bit more murky, isn't it?
If Devin wins, it's not a guarantee that he'll fight Vasyl Lomachenko. He may not be there at lightweight to fight him.
We don't even know when Vasyl Lomachenko is supposed to be coming back. Why didn't he come back with his countryman, Alexander Usyk? Why did Usyk leave? And why did Loma stay behind?
I'm not saying that they're joined at the hip. I'm just saying.
Alexander Usyk did leave the country to participate in that Anthony Joshua rematch. Why didn't Vasyl Lomachenko?
Why'd he stay behind?